It's Monday night, and we're sharpening our takes. You're tuned into The Cut, hosted by Thomas Roth.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of The Cut. I am Thomas Roth, and I am back with you, being produced by Anthony Aquendo on this beautiful February day, February 10th of 2025. Thank you for joining us this evening as we are wrapping up a season, recapping the Super Bowl, and talking about everything that came with the Super Bowl yesterday. Before we get into this tonight, I'm really excited to get into all of this, but at the same time, I can't do this without sponsors and people that make my life easier. So the first thing I want to do tonight, it's not a sponsor, it's nothing like that, but someone that has been helping me for the past couple of years and whom I definitely recommend to anyone out there looking to get their taxes done. So I want to take a moment to send a big shout out to Arnold Accounting. Anthony should have a logo up on there. Arnold Accounting, owned by Brianna Arnold. She is a local woman in the area, Geneva area. She is fantastic for any type of tax filing. I was referred to her by my dad about 4 years ago when I started doing business with her, and her prices have remained the same. She's super fairly priced. She is a wizard at this tax game. I'm going to tell you that because we had one scenario quoted for us, a bit of a curveball was thrown to us. She got right to work, found how we could file and not be penalized, and was able to find me a little bit of money in the process. And I'm very thankful for her. Go on to Facebook, Arnold Accounting. You'll find it right there. If you guys decide to go with her, tell her Tom Roth sent you. I'm sure she'd love to work with you guys and find any tax savings and anything for you for your tax return season. God bless. Thank you, Brianna. I really appreciate you. So she made my life easier. But let's talk about the show being easier. And we can't do this show without our sponsors. And one of our sponsors is a business owned by the man sitting right behind the camera, Mr. Anthony Aquendo. So why don't you guys go over to crackedrepair.com. KRAKD repair.com for all of your electronics needs for repairs. You're going to be able to get your phone, your tablet, your video game system, laptop screen, everything like that repaired in an effective and quick manner. Anthony can bring you onto the website. You can get a quote going. It's going to give you an idea of anything. If you need your power button replaced or your screen replaced, you can go on there, enter your information in. So that's 440-999-9999, and the email address is 6969dog@gmail.com, or John Doe. Either way. But you'll be able to get a quote from him. Any iPhone, Samsung, I think Google Pixel's on there too, if I'm not mistaken, Anthony. Pretty much anything you need done, Anthony's going to be able to take care of that for you repair-wise. I know he actually helped me out with a power button of mine a few years ago. So that was pretty awesome and saved me a bundle of trouble. So we want to thank Cracked Repair for being our number one sponsor. Go on over to crackedrepair.com, or you can find him in the Ashtabula Town Square, where he is always ready and willing to help. Thank you, Anthony, for all that you do repairing cell phones and electronics across the board. And thank you for producing this show, brother. You are the man. So let's get right into this. We had a pretty big game last night. Pretty big game. The Super Bowl, the grand poobah of sporting events. Super Bowl 59. It was 59, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what those letters mean.
LIX. I think it's 59. We're going to have the 60th Super Bowl next year. That's crazy. But Super Bowl last night, the Philadelphia Eagles faced off against the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes against Saquon Barkley, two dynamic generational superstars meeting each other in the big game. And the Kansas City Chiefs were going for a three-peat last night, which has never been done in the Super Bowl era. No team has ever done what the Chicago Bulls did and three-peated as champions. And the Kansas City Chiefs were hoping to do that last night. Unfortunately for Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and everybody who loves them, the Eagles topped the Chiefs 40-22 last night. It was a wild game. It was a not my favorite Super Bowl. I was talking to my mother about this, and she agreed with me. You got the Super Bowl is two of the best teams in football, the two best teams meeting in football for a final game to determine the champion of the NFL season. I don't like when a Super Bowl is a blowout like that, because to me it seems like it's very one-sided. The NFC is the better conference over the AFC at that point, because the Eagles from the NFC beat the Chiefs in the AFC. And it just showed last night that the NFC this year was a stronger division. And I was very surprised at how flat the Kansas City Chiefs looked last night. They didn't look like the Kansas City Chiefs that we've grown accustomed to over this historic run that Patrick Mahomes has been on for his entire career, honestly. Ever since he took over for Alex Smith as a starter in Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes has essentially lit the world on fire. He has never looked pedestrian. He's never looked like an average quarterback or below average quarterback in my mind. Patrick Mahomes has always looked very elite. And we're going to go take a look at his stats real quick. So Patrick Mahomes attempted 32 passes last night and completed 21 of them. He threw for 257 yards with 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, had 4 rushes for 25 yards. Now, that is a pretty decent number. I know, as someone who watches the Cleveland Browns, I wish my quarterback would have those stats, and it just doesn't usually happen for them. But Patrick Mahomes was sacked 6 times by the vaunted Philadelphia Eagles defense. And even though Patrick Mahomes had those impressive stats, the thing that we all need to remember is that Patrick Mahomes did most of that in garbage time last night. The Eagles already were pitching a shutout for most of the game, and then Kansas City gets on the board. And it felt like it was a Xavier Worthy touchdown, and it felt like a very flat touchdown to me. And then DeAndre Hopkins catches a touchdown pass, which, I've been a fan of DeAndre Hopkins since he played at Clemson. Absolutely prolific wide receiver, and it was great to see him contribute in a Super Bowl. But I was very disappointed for him because his touchdown meant nothing at that point, because it was, again, garbage time. And then Xavier Worthy scores at the end of the game. It was, I believe, a 50-yard bomb that Mahomes ended up chucking up to him. Patrick Mahomes looked absolutely flustered all evening. He didn't look like his normal superhuman self. He looked exactly average. And it really hit me after the game when DeAndre Hopkins said, "Where were the refs for us?" Because the vitriol the entire year has been the refs help out the Kansas City Chiefs. And you saw that quite a bit, I think, during the season. And it seemed like they were calling a much more balanced and fair game. They were letting them play football last night, which is something that you don't really see in an NFL game much any longer. Generally, the refs are throwing flag after flag after flag, or so it seems, because, again, as a viewer of the Cleveland Browns, I see quite a bit of bad football, and penalties are part of bad football. But we kind of just watching and enjoying the game, even though it was a blowout. But I'm kind of sitting there watching it and thinking, where's Kareem Hunt at? Where's Travis Kelce at? Where's all these stalwarts, Isaiah Pacheco, of the Kansas City Chiefs team? And it took me a while to process it, but they really were bottled up by a much more superior game plan employed by Nick Sirianni and his staff out in Philadelphia. Andy Reid is a coach I've watched for most of my life, dating back to even before he was the head coach in Philadelphia. He used to coach the Eagles, guys, back when Donovan McNabb was the quarterback, when they picked him out of Syracuse and brought him in, and Todd Pigson, Freddie Magic Hands Mitchell, Brian Westbrook, all of those, Brent Selleck at tight end, there was just so many great players that came through that Philadelphia team. And then Terrell Owens actually gets there and they go to the Super Bowl and they lose. But what was crazy was Andy Reid. I've never seen Andy Reid get out coached. I've seen Andy Reid lose games, and I don't necessarily think most of the time it's that he got out coached. It's that the players weren't performing for him. Andy Reid absolutely got out coached last night. Nick Sirianni employed such an aggressive defense, such a heavy rush the quarterback defense that Mahomes was flustered all night. If we want to talk about someone who failed last night, the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line was entirely in shambles. They had no answer for Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Zach Bond, a lot of these absolutely prolific Montez Sweat or Josh Sweat, one of the two, one of the Sweat boys, number 19, was absolutely killing it last night. And being sacked 6 times in a game is pretty awful. And you can't really do much when you're being sacked that many times. So unfortunately, Mahomes needed to play that hero ball at the end of the game. He rushed for 25 yards. I mean, I had that on a parlay that didn't hit, but surprise. But when Mahomes is giving it his all like that, it really gives you pause and makes you wonder, what if Patrick Mahomes had Rashee Rice, who got injured very early in the season? What if Tyreek Hill never left Mahomes? What if, Clyde Edwards-Helaire hadn't fallen off a cliff like he did? And I think it would have been a very different Super Bowl should a guy like Rashee Rice had been in there, because the Kansas City Chiefs have speed at receiver. Rashee Rice fast, and then Xavier Worthy, another guy who 2 touchdown catches last night, guys. 2 touchdown catches as a rookie in the Super Bowl. And Xavier Worthy, if we want to talk about the only offensive threat last night, he had 8 receptions for 157 yards in those 2 touchdowns. That's absolutely crazy. I've seen a lot of rookies contribute in a Super Bowl, but I've never seen a rookie carry an offense, a receiving core, really, like Xavier Worthy did last night. There were a couple good catches by a couple guys, and it was nice to see, but I mean, Travis Kelce wasn't contributing at all. He was making catches, but he wasn't doing anything with them. He was being stonewalled right after the line of scrimmage. When you have a guy like Xavier Worthy, who is an absolute animal coming out of the University of Texas, you're trading up to get him. You know he's going to be a focal point of your offense. And it showed last night that Xavier Worthy deserves to be the focal point of the Kansas City Chiefs offense. I think Rashee Rice comes back, takes that attention away from Worthy, because Rashee Rice is an animal in his own right, and you will absolutely see the Chiefs get back to being what they were because they have those 2 speedsters. It's going to be a very lethal combination, and I think with Patrick Mahomes doing as bad as he did last night, it's going to motivate him even more to go out there and absolutely obliterate the competition next season. Now, the question I have, though, is we have a gentleman in Travis Kelce who, for all intents and purposes, guys, looked absolutely pedestrian all season. It really looks like the Taylor Swift politics and stardom have the podcast world, everything, have taken his focus from being mainly on football, and he's started to look towards life after football. I mean, Travis Kelce's about my age. He's about 34, 35 years old. He's been in the league a long time. He's played at a high level a very long time. He essentially gets into 50 car accidents every Sunday with the way he is banged around by those defenses, because it's a freight train coming at him, guys. But Kelce looked fired up, but he didn't look like he was all bark and no bite last night, essentially, is what I'm saying. It was really strange to see, and it was very sad to see, actually, because when you have a guy like Travis Kelce, who's been a leader, who's done these things as long as he has, you expect him to step up in a game like the Super Bowl. You know, he's like that old guard, that gentleman who's been there before. He knows what to do. He knows how to win. He knows how to condition himself in this extended season that he finds himself in on a Super Bowl run. And, you know, we can say that all we want, but the fact of the matter is, teams employ guys like that. You know, when you look at even other leagues, let's take a look at the NBA. Tristan Thompson of the Cleveland Cavaliers doesn't play impactful minutes on the team, but what he does is he's that coach on the floor. He knows what it takes to win in Cleveland because he won a title. He knows what it takes to compete at the highest level and what one of the best players of all time expects of his teammates in LeBron James, because most of his time in the league was spent with LeBron James. So he knows what it takes. The thing is, will these other guys listen? And it's pretty apparent that they do. You know, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, their play has gone up insane this year because of guys like Tristan Thompson. The Miami Heat employed Udonis Haslem at one point for, I think, almost 20 years. And for about 9 of those years, Haslem didn't play very impactful minutes at all. He mainly was used as a coach on the floor. And it worked. The Miami Heat won a bunch of games. They won a couple titles. You have guys like that. And Kelce needs to be that guy for the Chiefs. And last night, unfortunately, he didn't show up in that capacity. So I'd really like to know, is Kelce still committed to football? Is he still committed to the cause? What do we have in Travis Kelce? That being said, you now are looking at a younger generation of players winning the Super Bowl, and one of those teams, as we saw last night, thanks Anthony for making me do that. I see you laughing back there. I was a little high up, guys. I'm trying to adjust myself. I apologize. I wasn't being weird, I promise. A team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who was a young team, they were all drafted or traded for. So it's a conglomeration of styles of creating a team, right? You have a team that is a little bit more organic in the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you have the Philadelphia Eagles. They drafted Jalen Hurts. They drafted Devonta Smith. They went out and traded for A.J. Brown. They went out and signed Saquon Barkley. Dallas Goedert was brought in and signed. Much of their offensive line was drafted there. Much of their defense was drafted there. Much of that defense also played together at the University of Georgia for multiple years. And during that time, Georgia was a top 2-3 team in the country and won a national title. So the Eagles drafted, accumulated, and deployed. They're all young. They're all great at what they do. And the Eagles definitely had a gimmick brand of football. At first, it was the tush push, right? Jalen Hurts lining up under center. Everyone behind him, they push him forward, right? And Jason Kelce was at the forefront of that when he was the center for the team, Travis's brother, right? They still use the tush push. But now, instead of a running back by committee, they signed the best running back in the NFL, Saquon Barkley, to come in. Saquon rushes for over 2,000 yards in the regular season, is robbed of the opportunity to set the all-time leading mark for rushing yards in a season. That's neither here nor there. A.J. Brown bitches about not getting the ball a lot. Devonta Smith is that quiet kid. You know, there's so many different personalities on that team, and somehow in the playoffs they all came together and made it work. A.J. Brown wasn't concerned anymore about the targets he's getting. He's worried about the quality in which he's impacting the game. Saquon Barkley isn't looking for the home run shot against the Chiefs. He's playing more strategic, right? He's playing much more strategically last night. And the guy who leads them all, Jalen Hurts. Now, I want to talk about Jalen Hurts, our Super Bowl MVP. Jalen Hurts went 17 of 22 last night passing for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, had 11 rushes for 72 yards and a touchdown. He outrushed the best running back in the NFL, who happens to be his backfield mate, by 15 yards. Because Saquon Barkley only had 57 rush yards last night. He was absolutely contained by that defensive line that the Chiefs employ. And what did Jalen Hurts do? He found receivers, and he found them well. He also, last night, got the haters off his back. It's been his whole career, essentially. He's a running quarterback who doesn't have a very strong arm, who's a game manager, who will never win the Super Bowl. That was the line of Jalen Hurts as long as I can remember. But last night he proved that if he can manage the game effectively enough, keep the ball out of the other team's hands, and control the game, control the pace of the game, control his line of scrimmage, tire that defense out, methodically move it down the field, he is going to win you games. And what is wrong with that? Football is about so much more than how many points you score, right? It's about how strategic can you be? How can you put your team in the best position to win, nullify injuries, nullify the other team coming out and imposing their will on you? There's so many different moving parts to winning a football game, and Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts cracked that. This whole playoffs, but especially last night. The best quarterback in the world, Patrick Mahomes, you were able to keep the ball out of his hands long enough that he could never get in a rhythm, and the defense could recover enough to get back on there and completely smother him the entire game. It was absolutely amazing to see. Getting the haters off his back the way that he did. I have seen so many quarterbacks have better performances than Jalen Hurts. I will direct you to Eli Manning, who I think has some of the best performances in a Super Bowl of all time. Tom Brady, the GOAT, the best Super Bowl performances of all time. Mahomes looked pedestrian when he usually looks amazing. The usually pedestrian-looking Jalen Hurts looked amazing last night, and it was beautiful to see. I was so glad to see that a young man who had worked his whole life for this was finally able to play his brand of football the way he wanted to do it, the way he knew he could do it, and it was good enough to win, and not just win, but decidedly obliterate the other team. Shout out Jalen Hurts for coming out and balling last night, because you were absolutely prolific, brother. Now, I got a couple players on the Eagles I want to talk about. We're going to talk about two at one time. And that's going to be Mr. Devonta Smith and Mr. A.J. Brown. Both prolific players. A.J. Brown, drafted to the Tennessee Titans, gets traded in 2022, I believe, to the Philadelphia Eagles. He comes in and lights the world on fire. He absolutely obliterates all expectations and all preconceived notions that he would have a tough time integrating into that team. Then that next offseason, the Eagles go in the first round and draft the Heisman Trophy winner, Devonta Smith of the Alabama Crimson Tide, to the team. Consequently, Jalen Hurts played with Devonta Smith, I believe, in college, before Jalen transferred to Oklahoma. It was an absolutely crazy time in college football. There were some crazy players playing together, like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, for Christ's sake. But anyway, Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown combined for 7 receptions, 102 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And that is a great number for a superstar receiver. So why is it such a big deal that those two combined for that, and I'm talking about it? Well, again, usually, guys, the Philadelphia Eagles are a run-based team. They go as far as Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts' legs will take them. But yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs' run defense and their containment on the quarterback was so great that he was forced to throw the ball. The Eagles were able to take a style that they don't usually play, go out there, play it, and win a football game. Usually the focal point of that Eagles offense, as I said, is the run game. It's not usually the receiving end. Guys like Jahan Dotson came out, contributed 2 catches for 43 yards, I believe. Dallas Goedert contributed in the pass game as well, the tight end. You had everything firing on all cylinders. I'm so happy to see A.J. Brown finally get a Super Bowl ring. I don't really care about Devonta Smith because he was the catalyst that beat the Ohio State Buckeyes when Bama beat Ohio State in all those years ago. 2021, I believe. So that was a tough time for me. So I still don't really love Devonta Smith for what he did, ruining my hopes and dreams. But great game for the two of them combined. And then finally, the last player I want to highlight is going to be the unlikeliest of guys. The Eagles defense as a whole was prolific last night. You had so many sacks. You had so many pressures. You had passes being batted at the line of scrimmage. But there was one young man who stood out. Mr. Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean, the rookie from the University of Iowa. White boy Coop. Can we talk about one of the wildest stats you guys are ever going to hear? So Cooper DeJean is one of 2 starting Caucasian cornerbacks in the NFL, with the other being Riley Cooper from the Denver Broncos. Both of them went to the University of Iowa. Cooper DeJean intercepted Mahomes and ran it back for what we call a pick 6. He is the first Caucasian cornerback to do that in 25 years. The last time that happened, Jason Sehorn did it. Jason, now that, for comparison's sake, guys, I was in 6th grade the last time a Caucasian NFL defensive back ran an interception back for a touchdown. That's crazy. And he was a rookie, and he blew the stadium wide open. You love to see it. Cooper DeJean showed yesterday that it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what your station is on a team. If you believe in yourself, you believe in your talent, you can go out there and fuck shit up. And that's what he did. He impacted the game with a pick 6. Great pass defense. He defended a couple passes in the air. He also made it so that Patrick Mahomes couldn't really find his targets all game. Juju Smith-Schuster held to 1 catch yesterday. Juju Smith-Schuster, the guy who used to go Corvette for the Steelers or whatever it was, a superstar darling, hold a 1 catch in the Super Bowl. And Cooper DeJean really impacted that. So it was really great to see a guy like Cooper DeJean, that lunch pail guy, gym rat, first in the gym, last out, all those fun like phrases about the white guys that really aren't that athletic. Shout out to you, my man. Love to see it. So highlighted the players, we highlighted the game, and now, as you guys know, every time I talk about a team that lost in the playoffs, where do we go from here? But tonight's going to be a little bit different because the season has ended and there were 2 teams left. So I'm going to say, where does each team go from here? And last night, Patrick Mahomes showed that not only is his offensive line a problem at times, because really last night was an anomaly, but it showed glaring weaknesses. You cannot get bullied the way you got bullied last night. The Eagles have one of the best defensive lines in all of football. But you've also played teams that have amazing defensive lines, like the Buffalo Bills, who did not do that to Mahomes. The Bills have a great defensive line. led by Gregory Rousseau, Ed Oliver, and Von Miller. The Eagles line, like I said, is amazing, but they need to invest in their investment. They put a $500 million investment to Patrick Mahomes. And last night, they didn't really do too hot protecting him. You need to go out and you need to find an offensive lineman. I think Josh Simmons from Ohio State University, a tackle, would be absolutely fantastic, would fit their scheme perfectly. The Chiefs are a deep enough team and enough players want to play there. Josh Simmons does have an injury right now, but he could be brought along slowly. You can have your tackle of the future while giving someone a farewell tour or while getting a low-priced, higher-level free agent that's on his last legs. But not only that, you need to go out and you need to get legitimate receivers. You can't bank on just Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and then a plug-and-play of guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre Hopkins, these guys that are on the tail end of their careers. And one guy I really think that the Kansas City Chiefs should make a call on, the Los Angeles Rams have already said they are going to trade Cooper Kupp. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs need to make a call, maybe take a second-round pick this year and a couple day 2 picks next year, ship them over to the Rams, and get Cooper Kupp. He would be the perfect slot receiver for that team with Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy on the outside. That would be great. A guy like Deebo Samuel also was just granted permission from the 49ers to seek a trade. I could see Deebo maybe wanting to go there because of the role he could be utilizing, because the Chiefs do like to play a bit of a positionless football between their receivers, tight ends, and running backs. Deebo fits that mold perfectly because, as we know, Deebo lined up in the backfield when Christian McCaffrey was hurt for a long time. Even pre-McCaffrey, he was doing that. And he was putting up number 1 wide receiver numbers until Brandon Ayuk and white boy Rick got there. So I could see Deebo Samuel going for, but Deebo's going to command a lot more than Cooper Kupp, in my opinion. It's probably going to command a player as well to match for salaries to match up. But I see the Chiefs going after offensive line and a slot receiver in the offseason. It's what they need to do. They don't need to get younger at the receiver position. They need to get experience because Mahomes needs the guys that know how to win, that have been there and know a route tree. One of those guys, Samuel or Cooper Kupp, would be perfect. The Philadelphia Eagles, where do they go from here? I mean, really, you're going to run it back, right? You have a lot of these guys under contract for a while. There's only one move I can see that makes the Eagles better and instant Super Bowl favorites. And I hate saying this, but Myles Garrett requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. If I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, Myles Garrett says he wants to go to a contender. I'm calling the Cleveland Browns. I'm offering multiple first-round picks. I'm offering multiple second-round picks, multiple third-round picks, and probably one of my older offensive linemen for Myles Garrett. That's the only upgrade that the Eagles can really make. They don't need an upgrade. So really, when a player of Myles Garrett's caliber becomes available, you absolutely have to check in on him. The Eagles are young enough where they don't need to draft for depth or anything like that. They have a lot of guys under contract that are on team-friendly, controllable deals. I really think that if you go out and you get Myles Garrett, you're an instant favorite again. And not only are you an instant favorite again, you're an instant favorite for the famous LeBron, not 2, not 3, 4, or 5 Super Bowls. I really do. If you can keep a semblance of that team together and add Myles Garrett to the equation, you are set up well. And I really wouldn't be mad if Myles Garrett went to the Eagles, to be honest with you, because he deserves to win. He deserves everything in the world for everything he did for the Cleveland Browns. I want to thank you, Myles Garrett, for everything you did for the Cleveland Browns. And I hate to see you go, but I'd be fine if you went to the Eagles because you deserve it. You deserve to be happy. Go win a couple go win a couple Super Bowls, Flash. So now we're in a transition to the halftime show from yesterday. Lots of opinions on this one. My thoughts on the halftime show. I was not a fan. I thought it was a very clever show. I see exactly what they were trying to do. I see exactly the point he was trying to make. I see the divided America. I see how Kendrick Lamar refuses to play the game. I see how he's the guy for the time to televise the revolution, and he did that last night. But the problem I have, man, with that halftime show, I couldn't hear dick last night. I couldn't hear anything. It was mumbling. It was mumbling the whole time. I know a lot of Kendrick Lamar's songs. I think Kendrick Lamar is a pretty above average rapper. He's not one of my favorites. I don't even rank him in my top 10 of guys that I like or female rappers. I don't rank him in my top 10 at all. But I know that he's very talented, and I know he's a poet laureate. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. He's a prolific writer. But brother, I didn't understand a fucking song you were doing. I couldn't tell what song was what song because there were no discernible hooks in anything. Blew my fucking mind. I was like, you are so good, and this is such an ass halftime show. And the other problem I had was Serena Williams sea-walking, and they show a close-up of her doing it. I don't understand why Serena Williams sea-walks. Her half-sister was killed by Crips like 30 years ago. She was shot by a Crip. So, like, I don't get it. I thought that was really disrespectful to her sister's memory. I even thought that back in the Olympics when she did it. That was crazy. So, I mean, I also see what Kendrick did, though, because that big feud he had with Drake used to date Serena Williams, and Drake used to date SZA. Both people were on stage with Kendrick Lamar last night. That was brilliant hating by Kendrick Lamar. And I didn't think Kendrick Lamar was going to do Not Like Us. I really didn't. I thought he was going to stand down, but then I kept thinking about it. No, Kendrick Lamar's whole point of this show is how he will not do what people want him to do. He's going to do what he wants to do. And he gets out there and in front of millions of people watching and the hundreds of thousands of people in the stands says, "Say, Drake, I heard you like 'em young. Certified lover boy, certified pedophile." I couldn't believe it. I was like, good for him, man. That's ballsy to do. He must not really give a fuck. Kendrick Lamar's got more money than God, more money than he knows what to do with, so he'd be able to take care of it. And I mean, even if the allegations aren't true, I hope that Drake's not. I don't want to see any kids get hurt. But say Drake's not what Kendrick's saying that he is. That's some slander right there, and he did it in front of the whole world. I mean, I know it's not a criminal case, it's just a civil case, so he can't go to jail for it, but I mean, it's absolutely astounding that he actually went out there and did it and didn't give a fuck. He just said, "I'm going to do it." And I did love how the stadium, when he said A minor, the whole stadium said it at the same time. That was pretty sick. But I was telling Anthony before the show, the only thing I could think of after Kendrick was done and he winked at the camera was the level of petty and hate that he had during that performance. And the only thing I could think of during that whole thing was the Dave Chappelle show, the Player Haters Ball, Silky Johnson, the hater of the year. Hate. I said Kendrick Lamar went full Silky Johnson right there. That was absolutely awesome. Like, good for him. But I didn't like the halftime show. I didn't like how mumbled it was. I didn't like how I couldn't understand half the songs he was doing. And the other thing I didn't like was that he was on top of the Buick GNX. I I thought that was a shot at Lil Wayne. Because the Carter 2, Lil Wayne standing in front of his Rolls Royce. Kendrick Lamar was standing on top of his GNX. And, you know, the Carter 2 is one of the most famous album covers of all time. And Kendrick, it kind of looked like he was emulating it or one-upping it. Like you're standing on the GNX, you're standing on business, maybe. I don't know. But maybe I'm reaching there. But I really thought it was a subtle jab at Lil Wayne. I didn't appreciate it. So I kind of got to thinking last night, and I was just wondering to myself, like, why? All this aside, what would have made the halftime show better? You can't really do rap at a halftime show because of
That's what would have made it better right there.
Can you let me fucking finish, Anthony?
Can't do it.
There's only one rapper that could do a halftime show, and that is Lil Wayne. It was absolutely completely disrespectful that Jay-Z and whomever else is in charge of this bullshit selection process in New Orleans, Louisiana, where Lil Wayne's from, where at the beginning of the Super Bowl, they shouted out, people doing America the Beautiful, was Trombone Skinny or whatever his name was, and then the other chick, both from New Orleans, Louisiana. And then when they introduced St. John, the guy that did the Star Spangled Banner, from Louisiana, they made a point to say it. It was so important to them that they got people from New Orleans or Louisiana to do that stuff for them. It wasn't important enough to get the greatest rapper to ever live to be in his hometown, in his home stadium, and perform the Super Bowl with a discography and catalog of thousands of songs. He would have put on an absolute show last night. I thought about it. If the stadium went dark and he was coming in, how prolific hearing the fire alarm would be and fireman blasting off when he came out. That would have blown my frickin' mind, man. That would have been the single greatest moment ever for me watching Super Bowl halftime shows. The best halftime show of all time is Prince when he was in Miami. That was the best one. Lil Wayne, oh. Yeah, Wheezy, baby. Yeah, it would have been just crazy, though. Like, Lil Wayne might have topped Prince, in my opinion. But then I voiced those thoughts that I had about not liking the halftime show. And I was told by someone that it's racist that I didn't like the halftime show, that I didn't get it, that I'm refusing to understand what Kendrick was trying to say, what Kendrick was trying to do. Now, this wasn't on my Facebook. This was a comment I had posted on a Facebook group just saying, hey, I really wasn't a fan. I appreciated what he was doing against Drake and Canada and all that. I thought that was cool, but this really just wasn't for me. And that's racist. That's racist. And it really got me to thinking, is it racist that I didn't like the halftime show? I think that's kind of a ridiculous statement to make. I mean, I think one of the beauties about the Super Bowl halftime show is that it's supposed to bring people together and generations of people together. And I think that it effectively did that last night for many people. And I think that that's an awesome thing. But it wasn't for me. I don't think that it's racist that I didn't like Kendrick Lamar's song choices, that he refused to bring out like someone like Lil Wayne, that the only song that he really was discernible was Not Like Us. I just thought it fell flat to me, the halftime show. And that's okay. I know I'm not saying I think that's okay. I know that's okay because not everyone's going to have the same opinion. And I'm not going to get mad at someone for liking the halftime show and telling me that I'm dumb or whatever. But hey, don't bring politics and race into it, because that's not where I'm coming from. I'm not that guy. I'm not going to be that guy that says something ignorant about someone's race or someone's choice of music or anything like that. That's not me. That's just not how I was brought up. That's not what I do. I respect people. I love people from every race, religion, gender, everything. Like, so it actually like really hurt that someone would suggest that I'm racist because I didn't enjoy the halftime show. I just think that that's fucking ridiculous. Like, I literally wanted another man of color to do the Super Bowl instead. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted Lil Wayne to do it. Like, that's just how I felt. Like, it's okay to have other opinions. Like, and if you're getting mad that people don't share your opinion about liking it, like, take a step back. Like, it's really not that deep. Like, people are allowed to like what they like. And my dad actually made an awesome point. He was like, hey, like, I don't really listen to that kind of music. So, like, I just didn't get it. He said, but it sounded good. That last song sounded good. But he said, he made a really good point. I don't know who he is. And a lot of people probably don't. And I thought about it. Kendrick Lamar is a bit of a newer musician. I mean, I saw Kendrick Lamar in concert years ago when he toured with Wiz Khalifa and Mac Miller, R.I.P. My dad suggested having older acts play the Super Bowl that are well known. And I was like, well, Dad, nobody wants to fucking watch the Rolling Stones anymore. And plus, they already did it. And he goes, no. Guys like that Justin Timberlake guy. And then I thought about it, like last year's performance, Usher, that was a good performance. You know, Justin Timberlake back in the day, that was a good performance. Prince, my favorite of all time. Everybody knows these people. So if you bring them out there, more people can unite over it. More people can have a good time. And instances like this that happened last night, the unfortunate instance that happened, can be avoided. You know, I was thinking about who next year would be a good choice for the Super Bowl, and I don't really know. But I know who I'd like it to be. I actually think it'd be pretty fucking cool if Morgan Wallen did the Super Bowl. Now, I know that's kind of wild to me to say after just talking about race, because Morgan Wallen said some pretty shitty things in the past, and, you know, all indications are he's kind of a wild card, but Morgan Wallen puts out great music. And I really like Morgan Wallen, and I think a lot of people know who he is. But if you're not going to have Morgan Wallen, bring back Justin Timberlake. I think Justin Timberlake could be prolific. Robin Thicke to do the Super Bowl. Anthony, I see that you posed a question. Who would you like to do next year's Super Bowl halftime show? Who are like two people that you'd like to see?
Yeah, that's a good question, bro. I never really thought about who I would want, because honestly, it don't matter to me. I don't know.
You don't know?
Don't know.
What about like
you know who I would like to see come back
Who?
and do a halftime show? But see, there's gonna be a lot of pregnant people. It'd be like Jagged Edge.
Oh my God, Jagged Edge. There'd be a
Or
lot
some
of
like
people.
112.
Oh my God. Bring
Some
out
old
Fabulous
school.
with them.
Fab, yep.
You know-
JD. Where's JD? Bow Wow.
Bow Wow. Omarion. Dude, do a B2K reunion.
There's
That'd
gonna be
be
some Pretty
hilarious.
Ricky in there too.
Oh my God, there'd be so many kids made that night, man. You know, actually, I thought they were going to do this a few years ago, but when they were in Atlanta, Big Boy was the headliner for the Super Bowl. I thought that they were going to reunite Outkast that year, and Andre 3000 ended up not coming, but I think an Outkast reunion concert at the Super Bowl would be absolutely unreal. Outkast would be sick. Actually, you know, Tim McGraw would be a good halftime show. Tim McGraw would actually be pretty sick. So would an NSYNC reunion. Could you imagine how many pregnant people there would be if NSYNC reunited at the Super Bowl? Or like if they had a Prince and Michael Jackson hologram Super Bowl show? That'd be wild. That'd be some shit. But yeah, so just to recap, wasn't a fan of the halftime show. Not the biggest fan of Kendrick Lamar, but that doesn't mean I'm a racist, guys. Come on. I think you guys all know me a bit more than that. So the NFL season is over. And that's sad because, like, when we changed the show and Anthony suggested to me that we start doing sports, he said, you know, this is great because I know how much you love football. And that was at the forefront of my mind, right? Like, oh my God, a football show, man. Like, how awesome. And now I'm at the stark realization that football season is over and we really don't have a lot of football except for the NFL draft in April. And then after that, really you got to wait for training camp in the middle to end of August. So there's not going to be a lot of football content anymore outside of the NFL draft. So, and remember, Nate Winchell will be joining us starting college football season through the end of college football season and probably a little bit into the NFL playoffs. So we are very excited to welcome Nate to the team starting in August, September time. Very excited for that. So where do we go from here? Well, pitchers and catchers do report very soon for spring training. We're going to be talking a lot about baseball. The Waste Management Open, probably the most wild PGA event that there is, completed yesterday, and the Genesis Invitational's coming up. So the PGA is going to be live. The NBA season is in full swing. The All-Star break's about to happen. The trade deadline just passed. Shout out to the Cleveland Cavaliers for getting DeAndre Hunter, one of the best sixth men in the NBA. He makes his debut later this week, I believe. I don't think he's playing tonight. So we're going to have quite a bit to talk about as the year goes on. We're also going to have some fun content during the year. Also, you know, sports don't just stop with the big ones like football, baseball, basketball. You know, I'm not really versed in hockey or soccer, but if someone is, I'd love to have a discussion with you on air about those sports because I don't know much. But guys, MMA, sports, WWE, a sport. These are all things that we're going to talk about. These are all things we're going to have fun with. I'm excited to take this podcast and start going into something new. It's going to be a new challenge. It's going to be a fun challenge. I've got Anthony with me, so hey, as long as he's with me and these two are together, this dream's together, we can't fail. So the onus is on you guys right now, though. I need to know what sports you want to hear the most about. Do we need to go exclusively baseball for a while? Is that going to get your guys' gears going? Do I need to start talking MMA? What do I need to do? What is your guys' preference for what I talk about next until we get back to football season? So please give us a drop. We're on the cut on YouTube and on Facebook. You can message Anthony or I on Facebook. If you got our numbers, you can shoot us texts. We'd love to go over this and see what, you know, you guys have to say. So thank you guys. The NFL season's over. That's where we're going to go from here. And with the NFL season being over, thank you guys for joining us as we transition from our more current events, politics based towards this. It's been a great ride. It's been fun. We're in the new year. We got great material coming for you guys. I'm so hyped for it. I'm so hyped that you guys watch and enjoy. I'm so pumped to be working with you, Anthony. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for a great NFL and college football season. It was great covering it for you guys. We'll be back next week with a new agenda, new sports, same guys, same fun, same bat time, same bat network. Have a great